The time is 8:45. Here is the news, edited by J. Yogaraj. Read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. All-party conference held at Presidential Secretariat. The President said it is not worth talking with only Tamil political parties on the 13th Amendment-related matters. Minister of Transport, Highways and Mass Media, Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said the main objective of the government is to pursue a green economy as a long-term policy. Health Minister assures commitment towards pandemic prevention preparedness. The best foreign policy since independence is implemented by the present government. Couple arrested for assaulting two policemen. News overseas, Cambodia's Hun Sen to resign after 4 decades and appoint son as Prime Minister. In sports, soccer, Messi scores twice on first Inter-Miami start. Local news in detail. The all-party conference called to discuss the National Reconciliation Program chaired by President Ranil Wickremesinghe concluded successfully. The President's Media Division, PMD, reported. Accordingly, the meeting is being held at the Presidential Secretariat with the primary aim of appraising party leaders representing Parliament about both the National Reconciliation Program and the North and East Development Plan. During the meeting, the head of the state stressed the need for inclusive discussions on the 13th Constitutional Amendment and emphasized that this matter affects the entire country and should therefore be addressed with the participation of all political parties, not just limited to Tamil Party MPs. The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, National Freedom Front and the Freedom People's Congress previously confirmed their participation, while the National People's Power announced that they will not be participating. Meanwhile, Samagi Jana Balawegaya leader Sajid Premdas also confirmed his party's participation for the meeting. However, warned that in the event they feel like the conference is yet another political trick, the SJP will walk out immediately. During the meeting, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said it is not worth taking with all Tamil political parties on the 13th Amendment-related matters. The issue is applicable to the whole country. Therefore, the topic should be discussed with all relevant stakeholders, the leaders of political parties representing the Parliament attending the meeting. The meeting was held at Presidential Secretariat this afternoon. The meeting focused on the National Reconciliation and North-East Development Program. The President emphasized the importance of the implementing new laws and solve the current issues. The President also said that he cannot solve the issue with only one solitary vote in the Parliament. Therefore, the other political parties, including the opposition parties, should extend their support in this regard. The meeting also focused on the devolution of power to the provincial councils. The matter regarding political powers could be sorted out after concurrence of the relevant parties. On 24th July, President Wickremesinghe extended an invitation in this regard to leaders of all political parties and independent groups with representations in Parliament. Minister of Transport, Highways and Mass Media, Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said the main objective of the government is to pursue a green economy as a long-term policy. The support of all stakeholders is important to make this venture a success. The minister made these remarks at a meeting of the National Advisory Council to introduce e-mobility concept held today. The function was jointly organized by the UN's Economic Social Commission for Asia-Pacific region and Ministry of Transport and Highways. The use of electronic vehicles has been increased considerably. The minister said the infrastructure facilities should be developed to promote further the use of these electric vehicles. A facility and service center should be established to promote this exercise. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news, State Minister Tharaka Balasura said the best foreign policy since independence is implemented by the present government. The government, headed by President Ranil Wickremesinghe, adopts a friendly policy with all countries while safeguarding the non-aligned policy. Many benefits will be enjoyed by the country and people through this foreign policy. Sri Lanka could also achieve its development goals through this friendly foreign policy, the State Minister added. State Minister Tharaka Balasura made these remarks at a press conference held at the President's Media Centre this morning. Two suspects identified as a married couple were arrested by the Kahathudu police yesterday, that is 25th of July, for allegedly assaulting two police constables attended to the traffic division of the Piliyandala police. The two constables had initially signalled for the lorry plying towards Moratuwa from Casbaba to stop on account of reckless driving. The driver, however, had attempted to run over the two police personnel and subsequently driven towards Heraliavala, police said. Later, the lorry had stopped in front of a residence in the area from which a group of nearly 5 persons, including a female, had come and attacked the two constables who had chased the lorry, signalling to stop. One police constable subsequently called the OIC of the Piliyandala police and alerted him of the incident, following which police teams were deployed from the Casbaba and Kahathudu police station to the Heraliavala area. Accordingly, the injured police personnel are currently receiving treatment at the Colombo South Teaching Hospital in Kalabovila. Meanwhile, investigations pertaining to the apprehension of the other persons involved in the attack, including the arrested couple's two sons, are currently underway by a special police team. Minister of Health Keheli Rambukwala has assured the ministry's full support towards the efforts made regarding the pandemic prevention preparedness at a regional level. Rambukwala made these remarks during a conference hosted by the World Bank, together with the government of Sri Lanka, themed Improving Pandemic Prevention Preparedness and Response through One Health Approach. Accordingly, the minister said, "Under my leadership, my team will assure their full support for the activities under the Regional Pandemic Prevention Preparedness Program to uplift the well-being of the population of the region and beyond." Moreover, the minister further emphasized that the Pandemic Prevention Preparedness Program is of key importance to ministry, as South Asia remains a hot spot for emerging infectious disease. Preparation through education is less costly than learning through tragedy, he said in his regard. Meanwhile, also present at the conference was Chief Presidential Staff and Senior Advisor on the National Security to the President Sagal Ratnayaka, who in a similar manner urged the Sri Lankan needs to be prepared for the likelihood of another pandemic. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Minister Ramesh Pathirana said the government provides the maximum support for the promotion of small and medium-scale industries. The minister made these remarks at a function to launch the manufacture and the research process of rubber, plastic and fiber products. The function was held in Colombo today. The export income of these products in the year 2021 and 2022 has shown a considerable increase. 1 billion rupees of income was earned from rubber export. The value-added services will be incorporated to these products with the support of university intellectual and students. That ends main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, the tally of dengue cases reported since January 2023 has surpassed 55,000 mark, while the number of fatalities has increased to 37. According to the epidemiology unit, this indicates that Sri Lanka is not out of the woods yet as the rains continue. As of July 25th, a total of 55,260 cases have been reported so far in 2023, with the highest number of cases being recorded from the Gampaha districts as 11,973. Further, the Western Province has recorded over 27,400 cases, the highest in terms of provinces. Moreover, the epidemiology unit has identified 52 high-risk MOH areas where dengue breeding places have been found in abundance. The month of July has so far lodged 5,940 dengue cases. That ends Watchlight. Moving on to world news, let's take a look at the headlines. Cambodia's Hun Sen to resign after 4 decades and appoint son as PM. Ameland rescue ship with 3,000 cars in deadly fire off Dutch coast. Colonization of British luckiest thing to happen to Australia, John Howard. World news in detail. Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Sen, one of the world's largest serving leaders, has announced he will resign and hand over to his son in early August. The anticipated announcement came 3 days after his party again won all seats at an uncompetitive election. Hun Sen 70 has become increasingly authoritarian after nearly 4 decades of rule in Cambodia. He first flagged a transition in 2021, but up to now no one knew exactly when it would take place. A fire on a cargo ship carrying almost 3,000 cars off the coast of the Dutch island of Ameland has left 1 sailor dead and 22 others hurt. A major salvage operation is in full swing in an area of the North Sea designated a World Heritage Site. 22 crew members were taken to hospital with breathing problems, burns and other injuries. A Dutch Coast Guard spokesman said the fire was probably caused by one of the 25 electric vehicles on board the ship. Colonization was the luckiest thing that happened to Australia, the nation's second longest serving Prime Minister John Howard said. His remarks were made in relation to the historic referendum due to take place this year on Indigenous recognition. If successful, the vote will change Australia's constitution to give First Nations peoples to greater say over the laws and policies that affect them. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Cambodia's Hun Sen to resign after 4 decades and appoint son as PM. Ambulance rescue ship with 3,000 cars in deadly fire off Dutch coast. Colonization by British luckiest thing to happen to Australia, John Howard. That ends world news. Development news is brought to you by
Vacancies for women from Deshakti Lanka for housemaids in Kuwait, Oman and Saudi Arabia for ages 23 to 58 years. Contact number 037 7500 500.
Sri Lanka has become the 178th state to ratify the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, CTBT. This milestone moves South Asia closer to achieving full adherence to the treaty and was commemorated with the ceremony at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The event was attended by Mohan Peris, the permanent representative of Sri Lanka to the United Nations, and Andre Colomates, officer in charge of the treaty section of the UN Office of Legal Affairs, UNOLA. Sri Lanka's ratification of the CTBT comes after the Cabinet of Ministers officially approved the treaty on 6th of June, following a visit from the Robert Floyd, the Executive Secretary of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization. That ends development news.
Vacancies for women from Deshakti Lanka for housekeepers, home cooks, caretakers and home nurses in Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia and Singapore for ages 23 to 57 years. Salaries starting from 156,000 rupees. Interviews with foreign agents are now on. Come whether you have a passport or not. Branches, Colombo, Kurunagala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 0377 500 500.
Moving on to sports news, soccer. Lionel Messi scored twice and assisted once on his first start for Inter Miami in a 4-0 win over Atlanta United. The Argentina star 36 scored 2 inside the opening 22 minutes before setting up teammate Robert Taylor in the second half. After netting his second, Messi celebrated by pointing at Inter Miami owner David Beckham. His performance follows a match-winning stoppage time free kick on his debut last week. That ends the sports news.
Go ekakthiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyamata set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyamata set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
JKH has recorded EBITDA of 9.23 billion rupees in the first quarter of 2023 and 2024. The group's BPT at 1.40 billion rupees in the first quarter of the final year 2023-2024 is a decrease over the 14.80 billion rupees recorded in the previous financial year. The first quarter of the previous year included 10.12 billion rupees of the net exchange gains recorded on its US dollar denominated cash holdings at the holding company, resulting from the steep depreciation of the Sri Lankan rupee against the US dollar during the quarter, whereas the quarter under review recorded corresponding net exchange losses amounting to 359 million rupees. That ends business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekakthiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyamata set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyamata set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
And now in economic news.
Sri Lanka currently generates around $400 million from seafarers' remittance annually, and with more opening to them, this number can be tripled by 2026, said the founder managing director of Centrum Marine Consultancy, Kalinga de Silva, at the unveiling its new headquarters, Centrum House at the RAD Melmouth, Colombo 3. He said currently there is a demand shortage of around 147,000 seafarers immediately in the world for the next 2 years. However, Sri Lanka only has around 16,000 seafarers, and the country must look at increasing this number soon. If Sri Lanka can fill a share percentage of this global demand, the country would be able to attract between $1.5 billion to $2 billion remittance revenue in the next 3 years. That ends economic news.
Weather report.
The Met Department says several spells of showers will occur in western and sub-Ragamel provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Matha districts. A few showers may occur in northwestern province. Mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere over the island. Fairly strong winds of about 40 km per hour can be expected at times in western slopes of the Central Hills, northern and north-central provinces, and in Wanragala, Hambantota and Trincomalee districts. This weather report was published this evening at 7:30 p.m. Further details could be obtained by visiting the official website of the department. That ends weather report. To wrap up the night news on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. All-party conference held at the Presidential Secretariat. The President said it is not worth talking with only Tamil political parties on the 13th Amendment-related matters. Minister of Transport, Highways and Mass Media Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said the main objective of the government is to pursue a green economy as a long-term policy. Health Minister assures commitment towards pandemic prevention preparedness. The best foreign policy since independence is implemented by the present government. Couple arrested for assaulting 2 policemen. News overseas, Cambodia's Hun Sen to resign after 4 decades and appoint Son as PM. In sports, soccer news, Messi scores twice on first Inter-Miami start. With that, we wrap up the night news on Radio Sri Lanka. Back to my good friend and yours, Soundithan.